So I bring you a new model, freshly made by myself, to bring to your D&D table. This video just kind of goes over how I made it, how I got over some hiccups, and how I painted it. This is kind of just like a showcase of the model, I guess you could say. When I do something like this, it's to fill a gap at the table. For this case, with this crane, I wanted something that players could interact with and kind of change the environment around them, rather than having everything just be a static prop. This model is available on my Thingiverse page, so hope you enjoy. This is my process on how I made such a miniature. This model comes in three main parts. First is the base. Every time I model something, I want to make it as printer friendly as possible. This base has a bit of a flat bottom, so you will have some tree supports needed, but that's okay. So the crane comes next, or I guess the main crane body. I want this little cylinder so it could rotate in the base 360 degrees. Similar to the base, I'm trying to add some support or major support looking areas, and then a back fence just to kind of, you know, keep people away from the big spinning wheel that'll go next. The crane top I made originally smaller. I didn't like how it didn't extend, so I built on an additional section. I wanted it to look like it was built out of timber, so I made very blocky looking supports. In the world, this would be made out of probably timber and a mixture of steel, so I wanted to kind of represent that in the model. Next is the wheel. This is an important part. This is just going to spin in that frame earlier. You'll see how this fits together shortly, but this is pretty simple. It's just one rod, and I keep on adding on various sized wheels for whatever kind of chain or rope that somebody might attach to the crane. And of course, catches. That'll come up later. So here it is, the base, and we have the main crane. This fits in pretty nice, and it twirls. So that's a win. We just need to rip these supports off. I usually use a set of pliers. I find with tree supports, they're usually fairly easy to break after twisting a little bit. I try to design the model not just for easy printing, but also I try to think of the supports. So everything in this model should be thick enough that you could pretty much just rip off these tree supports with a pair of pliers. And we'll get this out of the way. Save that for later. Maybe some corals. And the fit is still good. So we're in business. Next comes the wheel. And it fits pretty nice. Everything spins right. Oh no. What the fuck? So the incident, the miscalculation. The main rod was too short. It was hard to turn it with your hands. There's no stoppers on either end of the rod to kind of hold the rod in place to prevent the slippage. This resulted in total wheel collapse. So we're gonna need to fix that. Before I make a new model to fix this, we already have an older rod printed and I can't let it go to waste, so I busted out the 3D pen. This was a bit harder to use than I expected, but here I'm trying to go for a rope-like texture, just like a knotted rope on the end. Here's the new crane. You see it has some stoppers. This is just to kind of keep the looks of the crane while also giving something for somebody to turn. This was more of a print fail. Another problem with 3D printing is that occasionally the nozzle will clog a bit, resulting in a bit of a messy print. Not a big deal. I will once again bust out the 3D pen and try to fill in this gap the best I can. With the 3D pen, it's kind of hard to get like a nice straight line compared to the 3D printer because I'm just doing it by hand. So with this, I just tried to fill it in and I started to get the idea that maybe rather than pretending that this is wooden, it's kind of like a vine texture. Maybe somebody fixed this crane magically, and rather than replacing the beam with a cut timber piece, they use some magical vines to kind of heal the structure a bit. So I really like the idea that this particular crane was magically healed. You could easily print another one, but for this one in particular, again, did not want it to go to waste, so I kept on adding more vines, kind of just connecting it to this bottom vine bit, just to show that maybe a magician of some sort just touched the crane, cast a couple spells, and these vines kind of grew up from the bottom and kind of secured that timber that, I don't know, maybe it was destroyed lifting something, or maybe the timber was rotted out. You feel free to make a story about it. I needed to attach the chain to the wheel, and I figured the easiest way was just to use the 3D pen. This is just kind of a necklace or bracelet chain. You can get them pretty cheap at some sort of craft store, I would basically melt the plastic on and kind of just press it in with my finger just to make sure that chain's nice and in there. I added a bit of extra plastic just to make sure that chain stays on there. And now we'll just pop this right into the crane, feeding it through the 2 rods already modeled here. Soon we'll get to painting, so we'll just test this out right here. Oh, not again. So, the second incident of the day. I added way too much PLA to the model. There wasn't a lot of space between the wheel and the wall, so kind of a reduced clearance there, and the crane was unable to move. So I'm breaking out another tool. You've probably seen this before, but this is a foam cutter. We're gonna have to do some drastic modifications. I'm just melting this. I have to use this wheel, and this model's already kind of been modified a good bit, so I said screw it. I started just melting away this back fence here. Maybe this was magically modified. Maybe there was some damage previously or some acid. Anyways, you can play with magic, and it works. You can paint this a number of different ways. My big goal is to have the features painted differently so that it makes them pop out a bit more or set apart. So first I'm going in with the silver. This is a kind of paint any metal parts, so some internal strong beams and some outer coverings. This is just to show like the main support structure of the crane. Or that's the idea anyways. When I'm painting things, I want it to make sense, so anything that should be a metal part, you paint it like a nice metallic, and then if it's just like a wooden support, you could paint it a different wood color. Next, we'll go in with some brown. This brown is pretty close to the base color. It's just slightly darker, so again, I'm trying to make the features separate a bit. So I wanted a wood color that would pop out a bit more, so I did this light color, and here I'm just doing the outermost fencing of the crane. This turned out pretty good. It kind of complemented the darker chocolate brown of the PLA. I'm kind of thinking this represents different types of planks, or maybe it's like an outer laminate. So with most of the base coats done, I'm going to try to add some smaller details. So I'm using this even lighter brown to just do little wood textures. I've used a toothpick and I've used like smaller brushes. Anything that'll kind of give me that more wood-like texture. It might look a bit more cartoony, but that's fine. People should hopefully understand. So now we'll go in with the green, and you might be wondering why the green. So we're gonna paint these vines. The contrast between the green and the brown really pleases me. Again, these are magical vines, so if you miss a couple spots, not a big deal. Some wizard casted this spell, so we're gonna leave some of the base 3D printing pen plastic there, because that was kind of like a maroon reddish. The 3D pen isn't the cleanest tool, but in terms of vine, it gives a really good natural look. And we can't forget about this pesky PLA clump on the wheel. And we also have to paint over our our melted section here. We'll just explain that away with magic. Maybe the mage just messed it up. He panicked, he melted the back fence. The crane still works, so nobody really cares. So another thing to add, probably shouldn't have painted the rod. The paint just scrapes away in the cradle, and the clearance is a bit too tight. So I'm just scraping this off. I probably wouldn't paint yours, and I probably won't paint future ones. We aren't done with the green yet. We have this nice fluorescent green. This is to kind of give more of a magical boost to the vines. So we're going to highlight this bad boy. And following the regular highlighting rules, I don't want to cover everything with this green paint, just the highest points. And I'm going to gently go over it with the toothpick, adding little bits to my toothpick and splotches here and there for like maybe more solid parts. Anywhere the vines touch, we're going to touch again with this neon paint. I still want to leave a lot of the texture, so again, don't paint too thickly. The biggest clump, which was the beam fixing vines, I painted a lot more of the green. This is just to show, like, it required more magic. Because it required more magic to kind of replicate the strength of the beam, maybe there's going to be a bit more of a magical green glow. I only showed you the one I had the most trouble with. I also painted a couple others. And maybe a larger one. So after I painted the first one, I had a lot of lessons learned. The chain I connected with a wire instead of melting with PLA. This worked a lot better. I'd probably recommend doing this method. Alternatively, for this larger one, I just used regular rope, and knotting it to the middle worked fairly well. So that was just some nylon rope I had. So that's another option. With the larger one, it was a lot easier to paint, but I had little rust spots here and there. But generally, you can paint them all very similar, or you can paint it all purple. It's up to you. So the idea behind these cranes is that you use them to lift up players or objects, maybe lift up a large heavy box to set up as a trap for a monster. Maybe you could spin the crane to knock into another enemy. The options are endless. This is kind of just another tool to give your players to spruce up some combat, make them think a bit more strategically about their monster slaying ways. Yeah, hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.